All right, so we are live, and I want to talk about pro-choice versus pro-life. I feel like I need to get a lot of the meat of what I'm going to be talking about right out of the gate here. Um, so one of the things I wanted to highlight is the fact that on this channel there's going to be a few different things, and one of them is going to be where I have like live discussions like this, where I'm going to pretty much bring up a couple of topics. If anyone wants to chime in, you can share the space. The others being more of guests. I had Eric Dondero on last night. It sounds like we're gonna I'm gonna start having him more often on, and have people from his community more dedicated to that. So it's gonna be like more my work to myself, and then more like shared stuff. So I just kind of want to differentiate that. This is me. This is me holding a discussion about abortion. I know it's a really touchy issue. So I wanted to start off by saying like a little bit of my history on it, because I'm only 26, and I apologize for the train. It's going to be loud. This is the issue with going earlier. With a lot of people having families, having work in the morning, and then me being a time zone in the central time, it makes it a little more difficult for the train, because it's still running. If I did it like 9 o'clock, which would be 10 o'clock Eastern, I don't know if that'd be better. I'm looking to see who's actually going to be watching the show. Right. So we are live, and oh geez, all right. There's a second preview going. Anyway, so my history is, I don't know. As a kid, I really didn't even understand what abortion was. I don't think I really, when I heard pro-life or pro-choice, even like in middle school and stuff, like, I don't know. It's not like I think to a kid, like, an abortion's like, it's a really complicated idea. It's like, just birth in general for a kid is like, it's a good thing to wrap your head around. But like, then the idea of like aborting a child, that's like a good bit of evil. Like, you know, if you just assume that kids are like innocent, like just learning the idea that you could kill a child. Like, I remember for me, like, pregnancy was something I didn't really understand for a good bit of time, like probably longer than I want to admit. I can't put an age on it. It's probably not worth it to. But regardless, I remember that like it wasn't until like high school or something where it finally like clicked in my head. It's like they're killing that baby because they had sex and didn't intend to have that baby. Like that just the gymnastics of that just never entered my head. I was very naive growing up. So even going into college, I'll say that's when I finally started kind of trying to need to wrap my head around it, because people were like, so where do you stand? Because that's what college is. Like, all right, well, you know, college is for an education, but most of the time I'm having those discussions, it's normally around women, and I'm trying to be around women and, you know, at least share the space more often. If I were to say I was pro-life, which at the time I hadn't even put that much thought into it, it's like, that's probably not the good option. That's not going to lead to a lot of more conversations. So I was just like, oh, I'm pro-choice. I'm pro the people I'm having this conversation with. And I think that's where a lot of guys in particular sit. Really hadn't put more thought into it. And it's kind of where I sat for a while. And then I listened to a lot of cases, and there definitely is a lot of argument for the pro-choice side as far as rape cases. I've heard some more extenuating circumstances of some diseases and there's a lot of exceptions. And the thing is, I'm all about having loopholes for exceptions. So with that being said, I want to get into a few details I've learned recently that have really made me jump pro-life. Not only that, I've got some family members who are devout Christians, in the sense that they take that at face value. Not to say that they haven't done their due diligence. It's just like, for me, the bar is a little higher for having an opinion, because to me, you could just say like, I don't know. I really, if I ask someone, you know, what do you think of Roe v. Wade? What do you think of abortion? They're just like, I don't know. To me, that is so much better than like falsely declaring pro-choice or pro-life. It's like, if you haven't thought about it, that's fine. That's fine. So I'm going to dig into it. And I just wanted to start by discussing Roe v. Wade, because this is the legal precedent. And I do see things from a libertarian stance, which is the government should not get involved in our lives. And so if there's going to be a law, I just wanted to read it and kind of go over it and work this out myself. Okay? So Roe v. Wade in 1973 is a landmark decision issued by the 1970 redundant, Supreme Court on the issue of constitutionality of laws that criminalize or restricted actions on abortions. So they were deciding whether or not the government should get involved in people's access to abortions. The court ruled 7-2 that a right to privacy under the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment extended to a woman's decision to have an abortion, but that this right must be balanced against the state's interests in regulating abortions, which is good, protecting women's health and protecting the potentiality of human life. Arguing that the state interests become stronger over the course of a pregnancy, the court resolved this balancing test by tying state regulation of abortion to the third trimester of pregnancy. That's kind of like that was the line, you know, whenever I heard Fox News digging their heels in the sand, there was the third trimester. I won't give up the third trimester. It's like not giving up the ship. It was always that line that, you know, you gave us that and we're not budging. And that's why I wanted to bring up the New York's new abortion law. I'm going to talk about that more in the end. But I wanted to just kind of get to the first principle side of thing and work my way towards the current event. So I could get more into this, but it from what I gathered, it was saying that the state's interests become stronger over the course of a pregnancy. So the closer you get to being born, the more the state has a right to intervene. And then the court resolved by balancing tying state regulation of abortion in the third trimester. So once you hit the third trimester of pregnancy, the state can say that is a person, you can't kill it. That's the line. That's the line in the sand. Anything before that, that's where it becomes libertarian, essentially. It's like, do what you want. And then I wanted to bring it up because I think that's enough about Roe v. Wade. If there's a precedent or something that I'm missing, I'd love for somebody to let me know what I'm missing, because that's about all I need to know for now. Because someone had told me that this is Jane Roe, Norma Lee McCorvey Nelson. It's been she passed away in 2017, so I guess everything's been released. Better known as the legal pseudonym Jane Roe, was the plaintiff in the landmark American lawsuit Roe v. Wade in 1973. Obviously, her name wasn't Roe; it was Jane Roe. It was protecting her identity so she didn't get doxxed and whatever. The U.S. Supreme Court ruled that individual state laws banning abortion are unconstitutional. Later, McCorvey's views on abortion changed substantially. She became a Roman Catholic activist in the pro-life movement. Like, I heard that alone by someone I consider a conspiracy theorist. And then most people agree Wikipedia is a good place because they actually cite their stuff. And I could click on number 3, and here it is. This is, I'm not sure what article, this is Leader U. This is from Norma McCorvey's website. So this is quoted directly from Roe versus McCorvey. So I assume I can take this all at face value that she was in fact pro-life. And I would read into it, but I kind of want to gloss over things to get an overarching view, because one of the big things I caught was her name is
Abby that I witnessed.
Abby Johnson. Yeah. She is a Texan who worked for Planned Parenthood. And actually, I watched her recent Louder with Crowder, which I actually put a link to that video in the description. It's a bit longer, and this one's only 5 minutes. I didn't want to play a long video in case you're just not that interested, but I recommend it because this video that I'm going to share is actually from 2011. The video I'm talking about is about 40 minutes, but it was released like the last week. That this Abby Johnson, she worked for Planned Parenthood. She was kind of one of the squares. She was like a whistleblower. She's like, I took a few notes here. One of her problems is she wanted to add an options counseling, where when you come to Planned Parenthood, they say, hey, here are the other options, like in any other treatment that she had brought up. She's like, when we're being educated as nurses, one of the things that's always brought up from an ethics standpoint is having options counseling available. And one of the points she was making is that she wanted to make that a thing, but no one else in her branch or district, I'm not sure how it's broken up, but in her group wanted to actually provide that. They're just like, you know what? They came, they know. They came here, we're Planned Parenthood, they came to get an abortion. It's like, you don't go to hot dog stand asking for a hamburger. Those are my words. I'm paraphrasing, but it's kind of like that vibe I was getting. And she's like, that's just messed up. And that's actually in the other video. I don't know if she gets into that here. And the other thing she was talking about, the video from last week, was that she'd found that there's a lot of Planned Parenthood or abortion facilities or whatever. I don't really know the difference between the two organizations. But many aren't sterilizing in particular areas where there's high demand for abortion, that they're getting anywhere from 50 to 70 abortions a day. And they only have somewhere between 10 to 20 tools. I'm not sure what the machinery, tools, whatever needs to be sterilized, all the equipment. It takes about 45 minutes to properly sterilize it. And so if you have scheduled 50 to 70 a day and you've only got, do the math, someone's not getting clean equipment. Just if you try to spread that throughout the day, that's really that. I mean, that alone, just from a hygienic standpoint, that kind of was easy to flip me and to get me interested. And so I wanted to bring up, because that's more of a modern problem with what's going on with abortions currently as it applies to our world. But I wanted to stay in the ethical side of things as to why I believe abortion to be wrong. And before we get into any of that, I wanted to explain why I'm pro-life. Personally, I have had a lot of things change in my life. I've become more spiritual. I discussed it in other live streams that I was skeptical for a while. I was atheist, a pretty proud atheist for a while. Kind of an annoying shit. I'll say it that way. I was rude to a lot of religious people, and it was them turning the other cheek enough times for me to be like, these aren't the bad people. And doing research, reading, and learning more about a lot of different faiths and religions and see what it actually provides people. That being said, I think a majority of what it comes down to is believing in your progeny. As far as I like to say progeny, because it's not just I would say like your bloodline, but I think the bloodline is kind of patriarchal, and I do want to find I am right wing. But I do understand the terminology, and I don't say patriarchy in this sense. It's a little tongue-in-cheek, but I actually mean what I say. Is the Christian stance believes that, the father is the rule of the household, and there are some patriarchal things there. But I like to say progeny, because whether you're a mother, motherhood, fatherhood, being a son, being a daughter, they're all important things. And what I think, how this ties into religion and abortion, is when you have that connection with someone, if you feel strongly about your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, and then all your extended family, it makes it more difficult for you to imprint on that life and think that it can go. I would assume, this is an assumption completely, that if you don't have those strong relations with your family or, significant other people, that it's probably a lot easier to just dump that life. And I think that weighs heavy on what you'd consider your soul, which I do. This is what changed for me, is I do believe there's an immortal soul. I didn't before. I thought that when I died, I died. And I can't even tell you what actually made me believe I have an immortal soul. I think that's something that people kind of come across. And maybe for some people it's one defining moment, but for me it's been a collection of moments, and that's just something important. So when that light clicks on, you realize that whatever is in there does need to be protected in some way, because it can't protect itself. And that's as far as I need to argue in that point. That I believe that to be a soul, and I believe myself to be a soul. And just from that standpoint, I believe it should be protected if I have the capability. That being said, I can't be triggered if you have... Because that's one thing I've seen a lot of really far left-wing people in some of these rallies. One of the women's rally or women's march, there's some women that were proudly declaring that they've had abortions and how many they've had. And just from what I understand of healthy emotions and healthy human thought, I don't think that being proud of saying that you've had abortions, it can't be good for your mental health. It's got to be kind of heavy. It's either that or you've completely made the idea of an abortion not something that weighs heavy on your soul, which I'd argue be like, that's, when I say soul, I mean believing that you can exist again. To me, it's like reincarnation. So whenever I start thinking about abortion now, since I've believed that I have like an eternal soul, whatever the hell that means, it's like I can't put myself to a standard I wouldn't want for something that just existed. So I think I got into like my theoretical of that for long enough. And I'm going to take a break actually from speaking. I'm just going to play this video because it's 5 minutes. And like I said, there's a longer thing about what she just talked about last week on Louder with Crowder. But this is, she said, the day Abby crossed the lifeline. And she went from being someone who worked at a Planned Parenthood facility to now she is, I think she's working on a documentary about her perspective, having worked in Planned Parenthood and switching to be pro-life, just like Norman Corvey, the Jane Roe from Roe vs. Wade.
As the ultrasound guided abortion, I didn't know that it was going to be a significant day. It seemed like a pretty normal abortion day for us. We had a visiting abortionist come in that day. We were trying him out to see if we wanted to put him on our permanent rotation of physicians. He owns a private practice. Him and his wife work at that private practice. And he had told me a couple weeks before when I was talking to him that he did a different type of abortion procedure. And it was a type where he used ultrasound guidance. And it was something I had never seen before. I was actually pretty interested in what he was talking about because he had told me that it was the safest type of abortion procedure for the woman because you're actually able to visualize what is happening in the uterus. My job during the procedure was actually to hold the ultrasound probe on the woman's belly during the procedure, and that way he would be able to see the ultrasound screen and to actually see the baby on the screen during the abortion. And I remember putting the probe on her belly and looking up at the screen and saw a perfectly formed side profile from head to foot of a baby on the screen. They did a crown rump measurement and found that the baby was 13 weeks. I remember one of the first thoughts I had was remembering that that picture on the ultrasound looked just like the picture that we had of my daughter Grace when I was about 12 weeks pregnant with her, and thinking that it looked very similar. And I kind of got a pit in my stomach, and I remember thinking, you know, I don't think this is going to be the great learning experience that I was hoping for. He then began the procedure. And I saw the cannula, which is the actual straw-like instrument that's hooked up to the suction. I saw that go into the woman's uterus, which I thought was interesting. I'd never seen that before. And the cannula actually began to probe the side of the baby, and nothing was happening. Women ask a lot of questions when they come in to have an abortion, and one of the questions that they ask probably most often is, will my baby feel this? And the scripted answer that Planned Parenthood gives to that question is, no, the fetus does not have any sensory development until 28 weeks. And so that was the scripted answer that I had given to hundreds and hundreds of women over and over again. And so that was the answer that I was replaying in my head over and over again as I was watching this. And as I was thinking about that answer, all of a sudden I saw the baby kind of jump, and it was as if the baby was moving away from the cannula. It didn't like what it was feeling on its side, and it wanted to get away from it. And I couldn't believe what I was watching, because I realized that all of that I had been told was a lie, and I couldn't help but think, what else was a lie? You know, what else was I believing that wasn't true? And I watched in horror. You know, it was like I didn't want to look at it, but I couldn't stop looking at it. And the woman on the table was very, you know, she was upset, she was in pain. I wanted to comfort her, but I couldn't stop looking at what was happening on the screen. And the physician asked for the technician to turn on the suction machine, and she did. And, you know, with every twist of that cannula, I could see, you know, the baby's body twisting and turning. And I couldn't believe what I was watching. And then within just a few moments, the screen was black and it was over. And I just thought, gosh, you know, that's it. I mean, that's
powerful.
That's
turning
choice.
off the music
That's
there.
what I
just want to explain a little wizardry I've talked about. Like whenever I talked about the rhetoric and dialectic, I was paying attention to how they had the music on the whole time, and then as she's like coming out of this haze where she's talking about the abortion process, as soon as it's done, they turn off the music as if they're pulling the umbilical cord from you too, like the listener. I don't like that tactic. I don't like when you use music for a dramatic effect where it's effective, but I prefer to keep things within the objective, what actually is being talked about, the story itself, not how the story made you feel. You shouldn't manufacture those feelings. But anyway, I think she's going to wrap up here, but it was just interesting to hear someone that worked in a Planned Parenthood explain why she was actually there and saw an abortion and the moment that made her switch sides. So I'm going to finish this up real quick, and the train is just nonstop. So
I've been fighting for 8 years, you know, and I couldn't help but think of all of those women that I had lied to, not intentionally. I mean, I didn't mean to lie to them when they asked me, will my baby feel this? But I just thought, what if they had known the truth? You know, what if I had known the truth? I mean, if those women had known the truth, would it have made a difference? Because it mattered to them. You know, they asked for a reason, and I had just flat out lied to them. And I just couldn't help but think, what if they had known the truth? What if so many other people in our society actually knew the truth about abortion and what choice is actually doing to these children in the womb?
Okay, so I feel like a teacher from my high school days whenever they played a YouTube video to the class, pausing the video and turning the lights back on. Like, okay, so what do we think of that, class? Because I'm curious whether you're watching this live or if you watch this afterwards. Comment on the video. I get notifications. I'll respond, and hell, if you really make a good point, chances are good I'll make a response and I'll dig deeper into exactly what I might have found wrong. But I see just the deception behind abortion and its practice in the Planned Parenthood, which I think is like the largest provider of abortions. I don't know if provider is the right word, but it's like if you need to be resorting to tactics like that, like to me that's greed from the sterilization side. That's completely being unethical, but also not providing the options counseling or also the intentional deception of having the scripted line of no, the baby doesn't feel pain because they know the question's coming, because they know these women aren't horrible people. They feel like horrible people after they have these abortions because the guilt and the weight's heavy. But in the moment, they just need that little boost of ethical pride when they ask, hey, does the baby feel the pain? And they're like, yeah, no, it doesn't. Not yet. You know, its nerves aren't developed yet. It's like, is that what you want to hear or what you... And I'm sure there's probably plenty of women who got to that question, and I'd be curious how many women have gotten to that point right there where it's just like, does it feel pain? Or like a question similar to that, and they're just like, you know what? No, I'm keeping it. You know, who got that close? I'm curious what the protocol would be from Planned Parenthood at that point. I don't know if like they already get their money or what it is there, but yeah, that'd be interesting, because I think that abortion has probably got to be hell for the women that have it. I would say physically from what I've heard from others, but also emotionally and just kind of ethically, it's just got to be a heavy weight to carry. I feel like that's the metaphor I keep going to, but just based off like other, I don't know, traumatic stuff that I've gotten, that like the baggage I carry around, if I had gone through something like that, even if I had forgiven myself for making a decision, just going through it would be heavy. Whether I came to terms with it or not, it's just like part of your past that's really heavy. And that being said, I think just subverting that with just a quick one line, I'll tell you what, the reason I pick Abby Johnson in particular is because I just look at that and that's exactly what I would have done. You know, if I see her as a woman who was going up and being like, yes, I'm helping women, I'm empowering women. And then she just saw through what she wanted to see and saw what was real. And, she could be faking. I don't know. If someone can find proof that Abby Johnson's some crisis actor, Alex Jones style, let me know. But to this point, she passes my eye test, and apparently her credentials are on point. So I think I'm over validating myself. But how long are we at right now? I guess switch to another window. Oh, we're only at 27 minutes. That's not bad. I thought we were like 40 or so. I wasn't really paying attention. So yeah, the last thing I wanted to get into is tying it into the current laws. So I pulled up a BBC News article. It could have been anything, but New York abortion law, why are so many people talking about it? This is from 2 days ago. George Pierpoint. One thing I started doing as soon as fake news started being a thing was I actually sometimes I like Googling the authors and then going to their Twitters, because you can see, well, like he's got this meme of the whatever, and you can see he's a guy who looks not much older than me from London, England. He's following 3,800 people, 516 followers. Wow. Okay. Like maybe I shouldn't pick this article. That's kind of the point of why I do these things. But it's like, it only takes me 2 seconds. I just, mouse over, right click, search. First thing comes up is, because that's the thing, is all these left-wing journalists are lazy, from what I've been told. Look into the documentary Hoaxed if you think that I'm being irrational. But if you just follow the few breadcrumbs that are there, you can look into these people's past, and it's not just like, you think when the BBC you're reading, or shoot, no, I was going here. When you see BBC News, you assume it's this long legacy of wonderful writers and amazing people. You think of this legacy media, as I've heard it referred to as. But when you follow it and you reveal the masks like in Scooby-Doo, it's just silly George Pierpoint, who, I apologize, he looks like a bit of a soy boy in London. And I've heard about London soy boys. I've heard the wrath they can have. So it's already tainted my, let's find a different one. Because I've already talked myself out of it. New York abortion laws, fine law. This looks legit. New York, I wonder if this is updated. As of January 22nd, 2019, abortion is no longer in the state's penal code. This means healthcare providers acting in good faith may not be held criminally liable. Does that just mean, like, as of January 22nd, 2019, like, abortion is no longer part of the penal code, which means you can't be penalized for an abortion under, this means healthcare providers acting in good faith may not be held criminally liable. In good faith. So as long as you're, like, accredited within a system, whatever. Cheers. I mean, I don't know. Findlaw.com? I don't know. Let's go to the bottom and see. Thomson Reuters. That's pretty legit, I assume. Copyright 2019. New York abortion laws are less restrictive than those in many other states, which often impose long waiting periods, consent requirements, strict facility codes, and other statutory obstacles. A bill signed into law in early 2019 adds additional protections for abortion access, such as allowing certain medical professionals who aren't doctors to perform the procedure, and allowing abortions past 24 weeks if the fetus isn't viable, or to protect the mother's health. The law also codifies a woman's right to access an abortion, partly in anticipation of a possible rollback of federal protections under Roe v. Wade. Because of what I said, people forget that the person that set the precedent that for the third Messer tribe that allowed New York to pass its law in the first place, she became pro-life. And this is maybe something I didn't get into. Okay. In her first book in 1994, I'm kind of jumping around, but I'm just following my train of thought. I'm trying to convince myself. So if anyone thinks that I'm not staying on a point, let me know, or I can make another video in the future getting deeper into that. I need to get whatever. Autobiography, I Am Roe. Literally saying I am Roe. McCorvey wrote of her sexual orientation. For many years, she had lived quietly in Dallas with her longtime partner, Connie Gonzalez. We're not like other lesbians going to bars, she explained in the New York Times interview. We're lesbians together. We're homers. That same year, she became a Christian and voiced remorse for her part in the Supreme Court decision. McCorvey worked as part of the pro-life movement, such as Operation Rescue. Operation Save America is a fundamentalist Christian conservative organization based in Concord, North Carolina, a suburb of Charlotte that opposes human-induced abortion and its legality, Islam, and homosexuality. So she's pretty right-wing. At a signing of I Am Roe, McCorvey, because even I'm like, I don't know, I don't think all Muslims are bad. I think a lot are bad, and I think liberal or modern Muslims would probably agree that any that like, there's one guy, I forget his name, some Pakistani Muslim who's like, listen, man, he's got this like beta boy talking. He's like, oh shoot, he's got the puffy hair. He's like, listen, I don't know what your problem with Pakistanis is. Some of us are Muslim. It's not a big deal, man. You just need to be like an American, tolerant. He like talks in this like high pitched voice the whole time. I don't know how someone can listen to him and not see that. I don't know, this is the way I prefer to talk. I'm not even, I don't know. I don't need to justify that shit. But this guy, Hasan Minhaj, that's it. That's his name. Let me pull him up real quick so you can take a picture and it's not just hearsay. Hasan Minhaj. Oh, one S. This kid, this guy. I don't know how old he is. 33. Thought he was my age. This thing. He's trying to drink from the fountain of youth. So this guy's like, listen, man, I don't know why you want to say why you want to be mean to Muslims. It's like, not all Muslims. Like, I understand there's pretty little boys in Hollywood like you. I understand that. And I understand that you are leeching off a Judeo-Christian society, a capitalist society. I don't know if you're a socialist. You're literally within our free market and using our freedoms to try to shoot us in the foot for having some legitimate prejudices at times with people who want to destroy our culture. Ironically, I'm also libertarian and I'm also pretty anti-war, so I don't blame them for being in the first place. It's like these weird loops that I have some people that they think I'm like evil because I believe one point, but also that point counteracts with another. Like I am kind of anti-Muslim in a sense. And they're like, well, you're just not inclusive. I'm like, whoa, I'm also inclusive. It's like, I just understand that there's some Muslims out there that I went on a complete tangent about religious bigotry here, on abortion. Why did I bring up Hasan Minhaj? I don't remember, but I was talking about her, left wing, right wing, something. I don't know. Maybe when I'm rewatching this, I'll remember. Anyway. So she became, or at signing, McCorvey was befriended by evangelical minister Flip Benjamin, later baptized 1995. So she went, and then later in life, said she was no longer lesbian in 1998. She was received into the Roman Catholic Church by Father, the International. Wait, what? Release a statement. And she was confirmed as a full member of the So she got confirmed Catholic. What? She was confirmed Catholic. No. Oh, no. I want her. I want something. 25. Here it is. Norma McCorvey's ministry. So Norma McCorvey, she's the Roe vs. Wade, Priest for Life. I don't know. I have no idea what this website is. It says, one of the greatest constellations for those who have had their... Wait a minute. Oh, did you like look her up in here or something? I don't even know. What is this? Voice for Life. So where is this? These are testimonies? Do I have to like look up hers in particular? Priest for life, normal quantities of mystery. Because that's what they quoted this from. Not in citation given, dead link. So it looks like the citations here are a little rough. Frank Pavone. It's in New York. Pro-life. Christian. Catholic, I assume. Yeah, I'm just looking into this. It's like, regardless, the point of me looking into this, I don't know if this is true or not, but just for her to have gone from being the symbol of abortion being, well, she is like the loophole that allowed abortion to exist, became as pretty much right wing in this philosophical realm as you can possibly be. And then to have this new New York abortion law because it knows that Roe v. Wade stands a chance of being stricken down, or I don't rolled back. Is that what I said? I don't know what the terminology or the process is. I'm not in law, but it looks like they're doing this because they see it's going to be rolled back. It's like they're trying to cash in on all these abortions or something. I don't know. One thing that I'd wonder is, it's like, are they harvesting stem cells from all these abortions? Because when I say they, I say people who are financing the Planned Parenthood. Now that's a conspiracy theory right there, and maybe it's because I listen to conspiracy theorists, but to me, there's an organization here, the Planned Parenthood. It's trying to get people to get more abortions. They don't have the people's best interest at heart, which has been proven through several things that I had Abby Johnson say. So this is where I'm going out on a limb here, and is it simply the profit of making money off abortions? Is it literally maybe have to do with a rival power in the geopolitical landscape trying to ethically destroy part of our civilization? That's actually less of a conspiracy. That, based off what the stories I've heard of a KGB doing stuff and the Cold War spy stories, that's not out of the realm of possibility. But to me, also, the thing is, all the stem cell research, I think they said if you get the spinal fluid out of a fetus, or the bone marrow, or there's like really good like organic tissue to harvest from what I've heard. And I don't know if that's part of the process. That's a hunch for me, but it's like, if you're incentivizing these facilities to be operating over capacity, I'm wondering what's happening to the babies after they're done. I doubt they're getting buried. And I just wonder if someone's profiteering off that. That being said, the final limb I'm going to go off of is a guy called Moloch, which is something Sean and I have discussed before. He's an ancient Canaanite god of child sacrifice, and there have been ties of him to conspiracy theories within the elites of Hollywood and stuff like that. So this is my final little tie-in. And the other thing I wanted to mention was this: I've been looking into ancient history, and a lot of people have heard of the Punic Wars and Hannibal. And Hannibal actually means glory to Baal. Hannibal. It was like glory to Baal. And Baal Haman is one of the chief gods of fertility and vegetation. And apparently the Carthaginians, who were the other power in the Mediterranean before the Roman Empire flourished, they worshipped Baal Haman, which was a offshoot of apparently the same idea of the Canaanite god Moloch, of child sacrifice, of sacrificing children for the sake of fertility. So this is where I definitely get into tinfoil hat land, but I wonder why I've heard these rumors if someone doesn't want me to look into it. And so I'm just kind of leave it there, and this is where I just scratch my head a whole bunch, because it looks like there was a war for humanity way back when the Romans literally adopted the Greek gods, and the Greeks and the Romans all based themselves off Christians. So to me, that's all the same side. The people fighting for souls, the people who go on crusades from like, I just look at a map, like when you have King Richard the Lionheart of England, when he goes all the way across Europe during the Dark Ages, like, I just wonder, like, that man had to be traveling all the time because travel was not good in that era. Like, people died crossing the English Channel, and that guy crossed the English Channel through France or Germany. He went through the Alps, Italy, Greece, Turkey, and then he finally got to the Holy Land, and that's where he was, like, known for some of the stuff he did. It's just, like, to me, like, what some of these people had to do in the name of what they thought God was, they were so compelled to do incredible things, and it makes me wonder what the other side was doing. And apparently the Carthaginians were the ones who were opposing the Romans and their culture and their gods, who didn't sacrifice children, or so I thought. And one of the discussions I was having on Twitter recently was, it's like, maybe that was the fall of Rome. It's like Rome ended up sacking Carthage. They destroyed their city. It was in northern Tunisia. And honestly, since then, northern Africa really hasn't bounced back from that. And it makes me wonder, is like, was that a battle of good and evil? Was that the Romans and the Greek gods, the interpreted gods, triumphing over the forces of evil, people who sacrifice children? We know that, like, the Aztecs or the Mayans, I believe the Aztecs believed in ritual sacrifice also. I think those are evil acts from a modern lens. Is like, you shouldn't just sacrifice people. Well, I said I wasn't going to use the mic. That's really loud. But it's like, this is sacrifice right now. And, you know, I think we need to learn from history, because I think these are similar battles being fought. And yeah, I don't really know. I'm curious what people would think. I'm actually going to wrap up the video on that note. I'm going to mute the mic here and get some more water. But if you wanted to ask any questions or make any comments or anything, I'm going to leave the live stream up for a minute, and I'm going to shut it down here in a second, because I said a lot, and especially at the end here, made some conspiracy sounding stuff. So want to know, am I crazy, or does any of this make sense, or does this remind you of something that you looked into in the past? Because I don't know, I'm a huge history nerd, and stuff's really interesting to me. Oh, and I think Friday, tomorrow I'm busy, tomorrow night. I think Friday I'm going to do a live stream on promiscuity, because I want to tie in this discussion about abortions and not being pro-choice, because I think, and actually this is a good kind of segue into the next episode I plan on doing, is because of abortions, it gives all these contraceptives and ways out for women in getting pregnant. Is I want to bring it down to the act of sex itself, what it does to the psychology of men and women in particular, how it's changed recently, and the idea of hypergamy and monogamy, and a few other things. Just I think abortion's a good lead-in, because I think when women know they can get an abortion, it does empower them, and not in a good way. Power. If you go back to any of my Star Wars videos, it's like you could be using the light or dark side. It's just a matter of, you know, why are you casting that stone? What is making you go through the action you're doing? Is it benevolent or malevolent in your intent? It does affect the action itself. I think a lot of abortions are done in the name of vanity. You know, a woman who thinks, you know, I can be promiscuous, and I because I should. And I think men and women they make mistakes under that. And I think that's the point of, like, Christianity is, We do have free will, and we will make mistakes, and we will be punished, even if we are in the fallen world. But that's the point of Christianity, is coming back to Jesus and, giving into him and all that. And to me, that's a lot of symbolism, very useful. Christianity is the best story ever told. That was the best from people who are a bit secular like me, and I think the best way to describe what I think Christianity is, the best story ever told, is if you hear the whole body of work, it's the best inoculation for evil. And I'm very glad that my parents sent me to Sunday school, even though for me it was just a way of interacting with a bunch of kids my age on a weekly basis that I normally didn't get to talk to. But that's about it. I don't know. I kind of listened to it, but to me it all just seemed like such a charade. I guess I didn't believe in what the story was telling me. So, yeah, I think I've rambled on for long enough. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And I'd love to get some input if someone does disagree with any of the points or any of the things the information I brought up. Let me know, and I look forward to setting up the stream for Friday. Peace out.